All right. Welcome tonight to the first EAC webinar of this year.
欢迎大家来到我们今年的中阶课程。
All right. I have to say, I love, as some of you know, I have a lot of Sagittarius, so I love teaching anyway.
可能有些同学知道，因为我有很多的射手座，所以我就是喜欢教学。
But I have to confess, I think EAC may be my favorite course.
不过我得向大家承认一下，我觉得中阶课程可能是我最喜欢教的。
Because what's exciting about EAC is we get this chance to take all the different things we learn about the parts of the chart and slowly put them together.
因为让我兴奋的是，到了中阶课程，我们可以把我们以前所学的这些东西，然后终于可以慢慢的把它们组合起来，然后看看我们能够做什么事情了。
As you'll see in this course, we ask a lot of questions.
你们将会在这门课程中看到，我们会在课程中问很多的问题。
Because I want you to ask a lot of questions.
因为我希望大家问很多的问题。
Not just questions of me in this webinar.
不是说就是在这个课堂上问我这样的问题。
But questions about everything that you see in astrology.
而是要问你在占星学里面所见到的任何事情，你都要问问题。
When you look at something, you want to say, what does this mean?
当你看到星图上有一个部分，你想问这到底是什么意思？
What does this mean about me?
那么这个是讲我的什么东西？
Is this true?
这个是不是真的？
And why is this true?
为什么这个是真实的？
So you use the astrological symbols to discover the truth about yourself.
实际上你是在用这些占星的象征符号去发现你自己的真相。
And this truth is not a limiting truth.
而这个真相不是一个有限的真相。
This is a truth that opens you to the possibilities of who you can be.
这些真相实际上是帮助你打开你可能去成为的那样的一个人。
I have a lot of Sagittarius in my chart, but I did not come to China until I was 59 years old.
我的星图上有非常多的射手座元素，但是我直到59岁的时候我才来到了中国。
And I've done a lot of traveling since then.
而那以后我就有做，就是我的长途旅行就越来越多。
You are always developing your chart.
你是一直都会在发展你自己的星图。
You may look at your chart now if you are in your 20s or early 30s and say, there's a lot of things in my chart that don't make sense.
那可能你现在20出头或者30出头，你看着你自己的星图说，现在我星图上的这些东西根本就没有什么道理。
There's a lot of things in my chart that I don't fully relate to.
在我星图上有很多，我好像跟他这些象征符号，我好像跟他们根本都没有什么关系。
Even though there's a lot of things that you do relate to.
即便是星图上已经有很多你觉得你和他们之间是有关联的。
This is because you will grow into your chart.
这是因为你是在慢慢的成长到进入你的星图之中。
That's one of the exciting things about astrology.
这是占星学令人兴奋的地方。
Okay. This picture that you see in front of you here of the man or the person with the backpack and walking down the trail here.
大家在这个我们的课程上看到的这个图片，这个人他背着双肩包，然后走在他的旅途中。
We are all on this path together.
我们都一起走在这样的旅程中。
Walking down this trail as we try to understand the planets and ourselves.
那么走在这个旅途中，走在这个小路上，我们想去理解我们的行星，还有我们自己。
All right. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to review planet, sign, and house combinations.
那么我们今天晚上要做的是复习一下行星、星座还有组合。
Even though this course focuses and will focus a lot on aspects, let's take a look at what we know already.
虽然说我们的课程会把很大的精力放在相位上面，但是我们来回顾一下我们已经学到了什么吧。
Okay. And so we have a student that wrote this question.
那么在有一个学生问我这样一个问题，在新浪的微访谈上。
What does it mean if someone has the North Node in Virgo in the first house and the moon in Aries?
那么北焦点落在第一宫处女座，而月亮落在第八宫白羊座，意味着什么？
Does the position of the moon have anything to do with the lunar nodes? And if so, how can this be explained?
月亮的落点与月亮焦点有关系吗？如果有关系，该怎么解释呢？
Now here, what we're going to be doing is, of course, using the symbols in combination with each other.
那么我们现在做的就是要把这个星座的象征符号解读它们的综合，做出综合解读。
And here's something very interesting to consider.
这里有一个非常有趣的，你们需要去考虑的地方。
Remember that the lunar nodes are the lunar nodes. They are the moon's nodes, so they have something to do with the moon.
要记得月亮焦点，它们是月亮的焦点，因此是和月亮它们之间是有联系的。
And so it's not so far-fetched, it's not much of a stretch to imagine how the moon in Aries might be expressed differently when the nodes are in Virgo and Pisces.
所以说，想象月亮在白羊座和北焦点在第一宫，它们之间有什么不同，并不是一个。I'm sorry,
It's okay. The moon in Aries might be expressed a little differently when the nodes are in, say, Virgo and Pisces.
那么如果是月亮在白羊座，如果北焦点落在处女座或者双鱼座，它的表达是不一样的。
Than with some other nodal combination.
就是说，如果是它和其他的月亮的组合表达是不同的。
Okay, so let's explore. Let's think about what do we know about the lunar nodes.
让我们去探索一下我们已经了解的月亮焦点的那部分。
All of my students know how much emphasis I place on the lunar nodes.
所有的我的学生都知道我是多么的强调月亮焦点。
The reason I do this is because I've learned in practice that the lunar nodes unlock the main story of a person's life.
我之所以这么强调月亮焦点，是因为我在我自己的实践中发现，月亮焦点它会打开了这个人整个生命的故事的这个门。
So let's think about the nodes first by sign and house.
所以说，我们先想一想月亮焦点的星座和宫位。
Someone born with the North Node in Virgo is learning what?
一个出生在北焦点在处女座的人，他在学习什么呢？
They're learning how to be focused.
他们在学习如何聚精会神。
They're learning how to organize their life.
他们在学习如何组织他们、整理让他们的生活更加井井有条。
Now, on the surface, that may not sound very exciting.
那么这个表面上听起来好像一点都不令人兴奋。
But then take a look at some of the people who were born with these nodes.
不过你看一看那些出生于这个焦点的人们吧。
For example, Mozart.
比如说莫扎特。
And you think, South Node in Pisces, North Node in Virgo.
你会想，他的南焦点在双鱼座，北焦点在处女座。
He's coming from Pisces, moving towards Virgo.
他是从双鱼的国度来，然后要走到处女的那边去。
Think about the fact that the South Node is what you've been practicing for a long time.
想象南焦点是你已经实践了很久很久的一个领域。
And then think about the music of Mozart.
你想想莫扎特的音乐，
Think about the music of Paul McCartney.
你想一想Paul McCartney 他的音乐，
Also South Node in Pisces.
那么这个他也是南焦点在双鱼座的人。
Think about the lyrics and the music of Bob Dylan. Also South Node in Pisces.
想想看鲍勃迪伦的他的音乐和他的那个歌曲，他也是南焦点在双鱼的人。
Or the lyrics and music of Paul Simon.
或者是 Paul Simon 他的音乐和歌曲，
Also South Node in Pisces, North Node.
他也是这样一组焦点。
Right. And there's quite a list, actually.
实际上这有很长的这样一个名单。
Okay. And as those of you who have read my book know, this is the nodal polarity that I say is perfecting inspiration.
那么你们读了我的书的人知道，他们是处于这样一个焦点，就是需要让他们的灵感趋于完美。
Okay. All right. So let's think about this a little bit.
我们沉思一下这一点。
Let's think about this combination. Let your mind sort of just roam over this a little bit.
让你的大脑在这里边漫游一下。
The North Node is in Virgo in the first house, and the South Node is in Pisces in the 7th house.
南焦点在双鱼座
What does that
7
imply?
宫，北焦点在处女座1宫，这意味着什么呢？
What do we know about the first house?
我们对于第1宫我们知道哪些？
It's the house of me.
是我的宫位。
All right. What do we know about the 7th house?
我们知道第7宫又是什么？
It's the house of we,
是我们的宫位，
or you, or us.
或者是你，或者是我们。
It's very simple. First and 7th, it's me and you. Well, there's me and us.
那么7宫1宫很简单，就是你和我，我们和我。
We tend to identify the first house as self,
我们把第1宫认作是我自我，
also personality,
我们的个性，
body type,
我们的体格特征，
how we look, how we appear,
我们看起来什么样子，我们的容貌。
sort of what you see when you're brushing your hair in the mirror.
当你在那个镜前梳头的时候，你所看见的那个人的样子，
That's me.
这就是我，
Okay, that's the first house.
这就是第1宫。
7th house, that's you,
第1宫就是那是你，
or what I want from you,
或者是我想从你那儿要点什么，
or what I project on you,
或者是我在你身上投射了的些什么，
or what I want in a relationship, what I want a relationship to do for me.
或者是我想从关系里面得到些什么，或者是我想这个关系能够为我做些什么。
So if we see the South Node in the 7th house and the North Node in the 1st, what do we think?
所以说，当我们看见南焦点在第7宫，北焦点在第1宫，我们会去想象什么呢？
We know that the habits of this person are somehow tied up with relationships.
我们知道这个人他的习惯，可能就是会以某种方式和这种关系连在一起。
We know that this person has attempted to secure their life or attempts to secure their life through relationship.
我们知道这个人他总是试图通过关系让自己获得安全感。
We don't know whether they're successful or unsuccessful in doing this.
我们不知道他们这样做是成功了还是失败了。
We only know that they have a habit of securing their life through relationships.
我们只是知道他们的习惯是通过关系让他们自己获得安全感。
But what kind of relationships?
但是会是什么样的关系呢？
Pisces relationships.
是双鱼座那种类型的关系。
What kind of relationships are those?
那双鱼座类型的关系又是什么样的关系呢？
Complicated relationships.
就是那种复杂的关系，
Relationships with a lot of sensitive issues.
就是这样的关系里面会有很多敏感的议题。
Relationships that require sensitivity.
那么这个关系呢，他们需要这个人要很敏感才行，
Compassion.
需要这个人有很多的同情心，
Intuition.
很多的直觉。
Somebody with the South Node in Pisces in the 7th house might say, one of the things I like about my boyfriend is that they can read my mind.
那么一个双鱼座在七宫，那个南焦点在七宫双鱼座的人可能说，我喜欢我男朋友的一个原因，因为他能读懂我的心思，
or we like to sing music,
或者是我们喜欢同样的音乐，
or we like to meditate together
我们喜欢一块儿冥想，
and sleep late on Sundays.
我们那个那个周日的时候，我们都很晚才起床，
This is
很
Pisces.
晚睡觉，
Right.
这就是双鱼座。
And tell each other our dreams.
我们互相告诉彼此的梦想。
Okay. And yet, the North Node in Virgo is important too. But what about North Node in the first house?
那么，但是呢，北焦点在处女座一宫也是很重要，北焦点在处女座很重要的。不过在一宫又是什么意思呢？
Anyone with the North Node in the first house is learning how to stand upon their own 2 feet in this life.
那么任何北焦点在一宫的人，他在这辈子都在学习如何就是说能够靠自己来谋生。
They are very much about developing self.
他们需要发展出一个自我来。
If you put Virgo in the first house, this means a lot of practice when it comes to self-development.
如果你把处女座放到第一宫，意味着在发展自我的时候，他们需要很多的练习和实践。
And this also means trying to find, if we put all this together, trying to find a balance between Pisces and Virgo.
如果我们把它们两个放在一起来，也就意味着需要在双鱼和处女之间找到一个平衡。
I need time to focus for me.
我需要一些时间，为我自己专注做一些事情。
This is Virgo in the first house. I need time to focus for me.
我需要为我自己找到专注的时间。这是一宫。
Something I'm practicing and working on and perfecting for me.
这个是为我自己要去完善的一些去完善去实践的一些东西。
It could be anything.
它可以是任何东西。
Right? Okay. South Node in Pisces, though, means I also like that unfocused time with my partner. 7th house.
那么南焦点在双鱼座七宫，意味着我也喜欢跟我的伴侣在一起的那些散漫的时光。
This is someone who might say, I like it when I'm working on a project.
这个人可能说，我非常喜欢当我去聚精会神做一个项目的时候，
I get very focused.
我可以非常的聚精会神。
I'm piecing things together. I'm using my logic.
我用我的逻辑能力把这个事情都组合在一起。
And this is very fulfilling.
这对我来说特别有成就感。
But I also like this wonderful sort of just unfocused time in my relationship.
但是我也很喜欢在我的关系中那些散漫的时光。
My partner and I, we just kick back, watch a movie, and don't think about anything.
我和我的伴侣，我们两个就是回到家里面，然后看电影，啥也不想。
So there's a balance between these two.
所以在这两个之间要找到一个平衡。
Right, now, let's add Moon and Aries to this mix.
那么现在我们把在8宫白羊座的月亮加入到这个组合中来。
Here's where you need to start using your astrologic.
这时候你需要运用你的占星的逻辑了。
What house is Aries associated with?
那么白羊座和哪一宫联系在一起呢？
First house.
第一宫。
Right. Ego. Right. And I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. And the first house and Aries share this need to assert the self.
那么这个月亮白羊座呢，它也是和那个要去坚定自我的主张，他们是有共同点的。
So if you see a natal chart that has the moon in Aries and the north node in the first house, that moon in Aries is serving a purpose for that individual.
所以说，如果是你看到这样一个组合，你知道白羊座的月亮对这个人他是有一个意义在的，有个目的的。
In some ways, it makes it easier or more ready for them to act upon self.
那么从某种程度上呢，它可以让他就是说能够为自己做点什么更容易一些。
To be direct.
能够更直截了当一些。
to take action for self-interest.
可以为了自己的利益采取行动。
But wait a minute, what about the 8th house?
不过先等一下，那八宫又会怎样呢？
Well, the 8th house we know is a house that has to do with intimacy,
我们知道八宫是和亲密关系相关的宫位，
trust issues in partnership,
信任在伴侣间的信任，
partners' money and sharing resources.
伴侣的金钱，还有跟伴侣分享一些资源。
Okay, so do we think that when we think of somebody with the moon in Aries in the 8th house, do we think they'll be very peaceful?
当我们想象这个月亮在白羊座八宫的人，我们会认为他是一个非常平和的人吗？
Not really, no.
不会。
So this is very interesting
所以说这会很有趣，
because we see South Node in the 7th house, we think cooperation.
因为我们看到南焦点在第七宫，我们会想，这是有合作的。
We see Pisces in the 7th, and we think adapting to the partner.
我们看到在第七宫的是双鱼座，我们会想，他会比较去迎合他的伴侣。
But then we see Moon in Aries in the 8th, and we think, this is not so relaxed.
那么，但是我们又看到了月亮在白羊座八宫，我们说，这可不是一个放松的位置。
This is where the person feels what? They feel this need to assert themselves in your face.
那么这个人呢，他会感觉到有一种需要，他需要在你面前去伸张自己的他有什么样的需求？
And this is the moon, so it's emotional.
而这是月亮，所以说呢，这里面是有很多的情绪的。
And in the 8th house, this is where the person gets in the face of their partner and says, I need for you to know this now.
那么，我们可以看到这样一个人，他可能冲到他伴侣的面前来，对他说：“我现在就需要你为我做这个。”
In so many words, they're saying, I need for you to feel what I need now.
就是说，我现在需要你去感觉我所需要的东西。
Right. So it's where the role, guess what this means about the 8th house in this chart?
想想看，在这个星图上，八宫的意思是什么？
It means that confrontation plays a role in developing the self.
它意味着这个人要通过这样的一些一些冲突来发展自我。
So that a little bit of friction, a little bit of fighting might actually serve a good purpose here.
所以说，一点点摩擦，一点点争斗，是有一些正面的意义的。
I love this little cartoon. I picked this out last year. I love this little cartoon because this looks like Moon in Aries to me.
我喜欢
In
这
the
个
8th house.
我去年选的这个卡通，因为这看起来就像在八宫的白羊座。
Yes, right, definitely. All right. Because you expect there's going to be fireworks with Aries Moon in the 8th house.
因为你可以相信，这个月亮在八宫，好像那个就带回来就像鞭炮一样。
This is normal. This is healthy.
这对他来说是正常的，而且也是健康的。
Now, there are unhealthy expressions of this too, but in a general sense, you expect this person to be a little bit more in your face.
那当然了，这个人也可能会有其他不健康的面相。不过呢，你可以想象，这个人他会更多的就是在你面前表达他们的情感。
They want to know, can I trust you now?
他们想知道，我现在是不是就能信任你？
Remember, some of you may have seen the film Out of Africa.
你们可能看过那个《走出非洲》那部电影。
It's a famous film, of course.
这是一个非常有名的电影。
Meryl Streep and Robert Redford.
这是梅丽尔·斯特里普，还有那个 Robert Redford。
Robert Redford.
罗伯特·雷德福。
Right. And there's this famous scene in there where they're out with their rifles.
那里面有一个很著名的一幕，就是他们拿着那个来福枪在打猎。
And they are attacked suddenly by lions.
突然间有狮子向他们冲过来。
This is a man and a woman with guns.
这是一个男人和女人，拿着枪的男人和女人。
With lions trying to kill them.
这个狮子要扑过来，想去吃掉他们。
I cannot think of a more urgent moment.
我想不到一个比这更紧急的时刻了。
Okay? They both had to respond immediately,
他们两个就必须立刻的回应，
or they would die.
要不他们就会死。
This is Aries in the 8th house.
这就是八宫的白羊座。
We must shoot, or we will die.
我们必须开枪，不然我们就会死。
And in the film, the woman shot a lion, and the man shot the other lion.
那这个电影里面呢，女人打死了一只狮子，男人打死了另外一只狮子。
And it happened really fast.
而且一切都发生的非常快。
And it was very scary.
而且非常可怕。
Right. That's Aries in the 8th.
那就是八宫的白羊座。
And they had to trust each other in that situation.
而且他们必须在这个危机时刻信任彼此。
The man couldn't really get a good shot because the woman was standing in front of him. He had to depend on her to make a good shot.
那个男人没法直接开枪，因为这个女性挡在他前面，所以说他必须依赖这个女性开枪要开得准。
You could see he was anxious. He was trying to see, but he couldn't see around her.
你可以看到他非常的焦虑，因为他希望能够看清楚，但是他又没法绕过他。
So he had to trust her now.
所以说他现在就只能是现在就得信任他。
So that's what Aries in the 8th is about. I need to trust you now.
那就是八宫白羊座的表现。我需要现在信任你。
Okay, so this is very interesting.
这很有趣。
Now we know some other things as astrologers, don't we?
作为占星师，我们还知道其他的一些事，不是吗？
We know that the moon also is associated with mother.
我们知道月亮还和母亲有关联。
Or primary female influence in life, which could have been stepmother.
还有是你的重要的女性的影响。
We know that
可能是你的母亲或者是你的继母。
the moon even relates to general family patterns.
月亮甚至是和你的家族的一般的模式
So even just
联
knowing
在一起。
these few things, North Node in Virgo, 1st house, South Node in Pisces, 7th house, Moon in Aries in the 8th house, we know a lot already.
即便我们只知道这样一点组合，南北焦点还有月亮这个位置，我们已经知道了这个人不少的事情了。
We know that their mother of this person was probably a feisty woman.
我们知道这个人的母亲可能是一个脾气火爆的女性，
She may have been a fairly direct kind of woman,
她可能是一个非常直截了当的女性。
very concerned maybe about survival,
她对于是不是能够生存下来很在意。
about money, about partners' money.
对于钱，对于她伴侣的钱很在意。
She may have been kind of a hot, spicy woman in some ways.
她可能是一个那种热辣辣的那种女性。
Moon's in the 8th house. This is also very direct sexually.
月亮在第八宫，这是一个在性上面很直接的那种人。
You know, the kind of mother that looks at her daughter or looks at her son and says, hey, see, that's a sexy person over there, look.
可能这个人呢，可能对着他的女儿或儿子说：“哎，你看那边是有一个很性感的人啊。”
That's a moon in Aries in the 8th house kind of mother influence.
那是一个月亮在白羊座八宫的母亲的影响。
But she might also say, I don't know if you can trust them or not.
但是呢，我觉得，我不知道你是不是能够信任那个人。
Try this, try that, see if you can trust them.
你要试试他，你试试这个，再试试那个，看看你能不能相信他。
Right. So mothers trying to teach their child to survival things, 8th house moons.
这个母亲呢，希望去教这个孩子那种关于能够生存下来的这相关的事情。
The mother wants you to know how to face the lions of life.
母亲希望去帮助你去了解如何面对生活中的狮子。
How to be effective in the moment when your life may depend on it.
当你的生命不得不依赖这个的时候，你如何能够去
How to be effective in the moment when your life may depend on it.
怎么能够非常的有效率，会很能干。
Or when your daughter is on a date and some man is trying to take advantage of her, the mother will say, let me show you what you can do.
或者是当女儿去约会的时候，有些男人想占她的便宜，这个母亲可能会向那个女儿说：“我告诉你，你可以做什么。”
You can hit him right here in the throat.
你可以直接一拳打到他的那个喉咙上。
And then call, what is it over here? 611, what is it? 212. What's the number here? Instead of 911, what is it?
110
110. There we
然后
go.
你一拳一个那个锁喉拳打完了以后，你就再打
Sitting
110，
here, call 110.
你就这样。
All right. Okay. And that's Aries. Aries is very straightforward.
那是白羊座，因为白羊座非常的直截了当。
It's not Moon in Pisces in the 8th house.
这不是如果是月亮在双鱼座八宫，就不是这个样子了。
Moon in Pisces in the 8th house, you know, he's probably got problems.
月亮在双鱼座八宫，可能说，哦，这个人可能是有一些问题。
Try to talk him out of it. Be nice. Try to talk him out of it.
还是说你要跟他好好聊一聊，让他不要这么做吧。
It's different.
这是不同的影响。
Okay. All right. So let's go on here a little bit.
我们再继续往下讲。
Look at some of this material. Here's some. Let's take a look at some of the examples that I gave you with this.
我给大家一些的例子。
Okay. Here's one. There's some dialogue. This is what I want you to really do when you start thinking. I want you to make astrology alive because it is alive. It's alive in each of us.
这也是我希望你们要像这样的思考方式去思考，因为我们要上占星学，那个活在就是说能够在我们生活中活灵活现的这样的样子，
All right.
因为它确实在我们的生命中。
So let's think about what's being said here. She says, "That's okay, darling. I forgive you," she says, when her husband comes home feeling miserable and confesses that he lost money drinking and gambling.
那么她说没关系，亲爱的，我原谅你。当她丈夫回到家感觉到很糟糕，并坦白她花钱喝酒而且赌博的时候，她会这么跟她老公说。
Mm-hmm. However, her husband may find his wife is not in the mood for sex, or if she is in the mood, his drunken state may render him useless to her, adding to her frustrations.
但是她的丈夫会发现自己的妻子没有做爱的心情，或者即便他有那个心情，他那个醉醺醺的样子也会让他就是让这个老公对他的妻子而言一无是处。
Even worse, if he wants to borrow money from her to pay his debts.
那更糟糕的是，如果他还想向他来借钱还债，那就更糟了。
She will struggle emotionally and she's likely to become angry and explode.
那可能他在情感上面会很挣扎，然后就发怒。
Didn't you consider how this would impact me?
你有没有考虑过这会给我带来什么影响？
And now you want me to rescue you?
现在你想让我来解救你了？
Now let's think about that statement right there.
我们就想一想这样说法。
We clearly see the moon in Aries in the 8th here.
我们很清晰的看到了白羊座在月亮在白羊座八宫。
Now look at this second sentence.
那你看看第二句话。
And now you want me to rescue you.
现在你需要我来解救你了。
This is Pisces in the 7th. It's the south node in the Pisces. The Savior. I will save you.
那么这是双鱼座在七宫，就是说他是要做一个我来去挽救你。
Yes, you have a drinking problem, a gambling problem.
没错，你是有这种酗酒还有赌博的问题。
I forgive you.
我原谅你，
But I'm angry.
但是我很生气，
I can't just forgive you.
我无法原谅你。
See, so look at how that moon in Aries is awakening these things about the self. See?
所以你看一看这个月亮白羊座的月亮是如何了唤醒了他的自我。
All right. See, over time, like it says here, the person born with a first house north node and an 8th house Aries moon could become better at being able to negotiate agreements that include her own interest.
那么随着时间流逝，出生于白羊座北焦点一宫月亮白羊座八宫的人会变得更好的能够为自身的利益谈判。
And she could learn to trust herself better in handling confrontation,
他会在学习处理对抗的时候更加信任自己，
no longer allowing her fears of rejection, betrayal, or abandonment to stand in the way of her own self-interest.
不会再让他因为害怕被拒绝、被背叛或遗弃的这些恐惧妨碍他来去拿到自己的利益。
As she becomes less inclined to betray herself, she will be more able to assert herself effectively.
当他对自己的背叛越来越少的时候，他就会变得越来越坚定自信了。
This is the beginning of personal growth. This is the kind of astrology that we really practice and teach here.
这就是个人成长的开始，这也是我们在实践并且在教授的占星学。
One of the exciting things about learning astrology is also seeing how we grow and change through our charts, within our charts. We grow and change.
学习占星学一个最令人兴奋的就是我们如何去成长，如何是成长成我们星图的那样。
This woman does not have to keep paying off her husband's gambling debt.
这个女人不必一直去帮助她的丈夫去偿还赌债。
Which keeps her in a state of survival because she can't save money.
这个是让她处于一个好像总是在生存边缘的这种状况，因为她没法存钱。
One of the things about North Node in Virgo is learning how to live a life that makes sense.
那么处女座北焦点处女座1宫的人，他要学习如何让自己的生活能够是一个合理、合情合理的生活。
In the negative sense, the South Node in Pisces can represent a dysfunctional pattern.
那么在负面的情况下，南焦点双鱼座可能意味着它有一个功能失调的这样一个生存模式。
But Virgo is the sign associated in the positive sense with function.
但是处女座它的积极面向，它的积极的功能就是说，它需要功能正常。
The things that make logical sense.
那么一切都需要是合乎逻辑的、有道理的。
It's where she finally says to herself, I will never be able to really do what I want to do for me if I'm always rescuing you.
最终他能会对自己说，如果是我老是要去救你的话，我就永远没法为我自己做我想要做的事了。
This is a realization, see.
这对他来说是一个领悟。
And here we see the list here in the material of the analysis of this interpretation.
那么我们在这里面也列下来了如何去解读这一个组合的。
I want to go through this list very carefully with you.
我想跟你们很仔细的来过一下这个
Okay?
清单。
Here's the logic, all right?
这就是逻辑。
The moon is always linked to the lunar node theme in some way because both the north node and the south node are the moon's nodes.
月亮总是会以某种方式与月亮焦点联系在一起。
Okay? Since the north node is in the first house in Virgo, the south node is obviously in the seventh house.
因为北焦点是在1宫处女座的，南焦点显然落在7宫双鱼座。
First house, as we've established, connects with the sign Aries.
那第1宫呢，是我们和白羊座联系在一起的宫位。
But remember, both the seventh and the eighth house are relationship houses.
但是要记得，第7宫、第8宫都是关系的宫位。
You know, a lot of times in popular astrology, the seventh house gets all the attention.
那么有时候呢，在那个流行的占星学上面，好像大家就7宫受到关注更多。
But you need to pay a lot of attention to the eighth house.
但是大家一定要给第8宫给予更多的关注。
The seventh house is just the agreement to be in the relationship,
7宫只不过是我们2个人同意进入一段关系，
which is very important.
这是很重要的。
But the eighth house is how it works out.
但是第8宫是这段关系行得通还行不通，是在第8宫。
What happens when the clothes come off? That's the eighth house.
我们的都脱掉衣服了以后会出现什么？这是第8宫。
What happens when we have a joint bank account?
当我们有一个联合的银行账户的时候会怎么样？
What happens when you lose your job and I have to support you?
当你失业了，我要去支持你的时候会发生什么？
These are the pressures of relationships.
这是关系中的压力所在。
And that's the eighth house.
这都是8宫。
I lost my job and my wife stopped having sex with me.
我失业了，我老婆就不跟我做爱了。
Sounds like an eighth house issue.
这是不是第8宫的议题呢？
Yes. This is the eighth house. This is relationships.
这就是第8宫。
Okay. All right. Here we go. Let's go through and look at some of these key words here.
我们看看这里面的一些关键词。
Again, using the key words is how you can piece together the meaning of the symbols.
那么再说一遍，要用关键词，这样的话你就可能把那个象征的这些象征符号的意义连在一起了。
When I was learning astrology, not only did I write these keywords down a lot, I used to walk back and forth, just repeating them over and over again.
当我学占星的时候，我不仅会把这些关键词一遍遍的写下来，而且我还会在房间里一遍遍来回踱步，不断的重复这些关键词。
Okay. North node means something we're learning
北焦点
how.
意味着我们正在学习的。
South node is something that's already probably a well-developed or familiar thing, or well-developed capacity in the positive sense.
南焦点是我们早已具备的这样一些能力，也还或者是我们非常熟悉的。
The moon, of course, is emotional.
月亮当然是我们的情感，
Certainly emotionally sensitive to feelings.
当然是在情感上对于感受敏感的那边。
Virgo is about how we organize our lives.
处女座是我们如何组织我们的生活。
Pisces is complex people, complicated circumstances, sensitive situations.
双鱼座是复杂的人、复杂的情况、敏感的状态。
Aries, immediate, impatient.
那么白羊座是那个迫切的、急切的、
First
不
house,
耐烦的。第一宫
self-reliant.
自立，
Seventh house, partner's problems, partnership.
第七宫伴侣的问题、伴侣关系。
And eighth house, of course, rejection, fears regarding betrayal, confrontation.
第八宫当然是拒绝，对于背叛的恐惧、冲突、对抗。
Now, in discussing this pattern so far, we've used all of those key words, haven't we?
当我们刚才来谈论这个的时候，我们用了所有的这些关键词，不是吗？
Now, there are different ways of being able to interpret these symbols.
但是呢，就是说我们来解读这些象征符号有不同的方法。
And I want you to think about this when it comes to any symbols, any chart you're looking at.
我希望你们要想到这一点，不论你们是在看什么样的星图，
Constructive and destructive manifestation.
你们要从两方面，既要想象它建设性的表达，也要想象破坏性的表达。
Everything in a chart has a positive potential and a negative potential.
星图中的一切都可能有建设性的可能性，也有破坏性的可能性。
And that's one of the hard things about interpretation.
这就是解读里面最难的一点了。
Because you don't know until you have gotten feedback from somewhere, either from the person or people that know them. You don't know whether that symbol is being expressed constructively or destructively in their life. You do not know.
因为除非你碰到了这个人，或者是你从很熟悉这个人的人身上听到关于这个人的事，你不知道这些象征符号到底是以建设性的方式还是破坏性的方式表达出来。
You may think you know, but you are just guessing.
你可能以为你知道，但实际上你不过是在猜测。
Just like you do not know whether it is the chart of a man or a woman until someone tells you.
正像你根本不知道这是一个男人的星图还是女人的星图，除非有人告诉你。
You cannot look at a chart and look and go, oh, this is obviously a woman.
你不可能看了一张星图说，哦，这毫无疑问是个女人的星图，
That's impossible.
这是不可能的。
Okay? Got to have feedback.
你必须要得到回馈才行。
Let's be honest.
我们要诚实一些。
Let's be real. Let's don't make claims about astrology that are not true.
我们要诚实一些，我们不要去虚假的声张占星学其实做不到的事情。
Okay. All right. Because then we just invite our critics to be correct about us.
否则的话，我们不过是邀请别人去来批判我们。
And I have Saturn in Virgo, and I like to beat my critics.
因为我的土星在处女座，所以说我想打败我的批评我的人。
I like to win.
我想要赢。
All right. In the previous interpretation, we gave more obvious challenging circumstances, didn't we?
在前面一个我们给的是一个非常明显的一个挑战的一个境况。
However, what if this woman born with North Node in Virgo in the first house and Moon in Aries in the eighth had already been living her life with more awareness? What if she had?
但是如果这个女性她已经有一个更好的觉察了，在这样的她有带着更大的觉察在过日子，又会发现出现什么呢？
Suppose she had chosen a partner that had more positive Pisces-like attributes.
也许她选择了一个丈夫，这个丈夫呢，他有更正向的双鱼座的这样一种特征。
I want you to notice something here. The key word here is chosen.
我希望大家 能够注意到这个关键词，这个关键词就是选择。
And that's a very important keyword for North Node in Virgo.
这对于北焦点处女座的人来说是非常重要的一个关键词。
Why?
为什么呢？
Because we know Virgo is about being picky.
因为我们知道处女座就是要挑剔的，
Virgo is about selection.
处女座就是要去选择的。
Virgo in the first house means it's my turn for me to choose, to select.
那么处女座在一宫意味着轮到我去为我自己选择了。
Pisces in the seventh means I'm used to letting relationships just happen to me.
那么双鱼座在第七宫的人，他的习性是，这个事就发生在我身上了，就是这段关系就这么发生在我身上了，
He washed up on the beach in front of me.
就是他就被那个潮水冲到我的岸边了。
I thought, this must be a sign we're supposed to be married.
我想，这可能就是因为他冲到我身边了，我觉得这就是个信号吧，意味着我们就该结婚，
And so I brought him home
所以说我就把他带回家了，
and fed him
然后我就开始喂他，
and gave him money.
给他钱，
And he gambled it all away.
然后他就把它全都赌光了。
All right. All right, here we go. And this is what we're talking about here, that we've seen the negative side of Pisces in the seventh. What could this manifest in a positive way? And then if so, why?
那么这是刚才我们讲到了啊，那么这种会不会以一种正向的方式表现出来呢？如果是这样的话，为什么呢？
Okay, let's come up with another scenario here. Let's be creative.
让我们更有创造力一些，我们创造另外一个情境吧。
In this case, her husband now works as a creative director for CCTV.
那么我们换个例子啊，这个人现在呢，她的丈夫是 CCTV 的一个导演，
That sounds healthy, Pisces.
这听上去是不是一个很健康的双鱼座？
When she first met him, he had just graduated from the Beijing Film Academy and was looking for a job.
当他们初识的时候，他刚从北京电影学院毕业，正在找一个工作。
She loved his sensitivity and imagination,
他喜欢他的敏感和想象力，
but she was concerned about how practical and realistic he might be.
但是呢，他也在意他是否踏实而且实际。
Sounds like she's developed a little bit of her Virgo, doesn't it?
这样听起来好像他已经发展出了一点点处女座的能力了。
She had already obtained a degree in accounting and landed a job with a new cutting-edge investment firm that appeared to be off to a good start.
那么他已经获得了会计学的学位，而且进入了一个新成立的非常前沿的公司。
Now
而且这公司看上去有个好的开始。
let's examine that sentence.
让我们来检查一下这句话。
We can understand accounting. This is Virgo.
我们能够理解会计学的那部分，这是处女座。
What about cutting-edge investment firm?
那么它是在一个非常前沿的一个投资公司，那么这是从哪来的呢？
Eighth house, right?
对，这是八宫。
Eighth house is certainly an investment firm, and maybe Aries in the eighth cutting-edge investment.
毫无疑问，那个八宫是那种投资公司，那个白羊座呢，会是很前沿的一个投资公司。
Her salary enabled her to be relatively independent,
而且的收入能够让她相对独立的生活。
living in a small but modern apartment with just one roommate.
那么与一个室友共居一室，虽然不大，但是很现代的公寓。
This means she is having the experience of being on her own.
这就意味着她已经有这个经历了，能够靠自己独立谋生。
This is a first house experience. She is able to stand upon her own 2 feet.
这是一宫的这样一个经历，她能够独立自主。
Her life makes sense. She's got a job. She's got an apartment.
而且她的生活呢，实际上也是合情合理的。她有一个工作，她有一个公寓。
If I have a client who comes in to see me, a young woman, and she has these circumstances with this kind of chart, that's exactly what this tells me.
如果是我的一个客户，他有这样一个星图呢，这是他的情况，那么这就是他能够告诉我的。
Okay. When her then film graduate boyfriend got a job with CCTV, she was excited for him and became even more convinced after his first year, notice that, year with the station, that he was the right choice for her.
那当她的男友从电影学院毕业，并且在电视台找到工作的时候，她为他感到高兴。而她在电视台工作1年之后，她更确信 这就是他是适合自己的人，一定要注意到他这个1年之后这一点。
She gave this a little time.
也就是说，他给这段关系的一些时光去考
Which is
察，
very practical.
这是非常实际的。
She didn't just say, I love his imagination and sensitivity, let's get married.
他没有说哦，我喜欢他的敏感和想象力，我们结婚吧。
She said, well, let me see if he keeps this job.
他说我看一看他能不能保住他的工作。
Now you may think, well, that's just common sense.
你可能会想啊，这不过就是一个这是我们都应该有这样的常识嘛。
Yes, it is.
没错，
Which is
是
what Virgo's about.
这就是处女座的常识。
Just common sense.
处女座就需要一点常识就好了。
Right? It's not South Node in Pisces.
但是这不是南焦点在双鱼座的这个本性。
Right. They were married shortly afterwards, and she remains very happy with her decision.
没过多久他们结婚了，他对自己的决定感到高兴。
She loves hearing his excitement about the latest creative project he's working on,
他喜欢听他分享对最近所做的创意项目的描述。
and finds herself immediately attracted to him all over again.
他觉得自己立刻又被他重新吸引。
This sounds like Aries in the 8th to me.
这听起来像白羊座8宫。
When he's excited and passionate about something in the moment, she likes that.
当她的丈夫呢，就是当此时此刻对一个事情非常的兴奋，然后呢，她就会非常喜欢这一点。
Right. Her husband is truly a kind and caring man as well, which is certainly the Pisces in the 7th.
她的丈夫是一个善良体贴的男人，这毫无疑问是描述的7宫双鱼座的特征。
And she tells, I love this part, and she tells about how he actually used up some of his vacation time to stay home from work and look after her once when she had the flu.
他说有一次在他得流感的时候，他如果抛下工作请假在家照顾他。
He's probably a Pisces.
他可能是一个双鱼座。
But he might have Mars in Aries, we don't know.
但是也许这个男性的火星在白羊座，我不知道。
The only area of any significant disagreement they've experienced was over sharing a joint bank account.
他们两个所经历的唯一一个重大分歧是关于分享一个联名账户的。
She did not like having to keep up with what he was doing with their account.
他不喜欢追究他是如何处理他们账户的。
So after several discussions, they agreed to keep separate bank accounts.
因此，在经过几次讨论之后，他们决定分开，把他们的账户分开。
She feels she is married to the man of her dreams, but she loves her job and her own more organized sense of self-reliance and independence.
她觉得自己嫁给了梦寐以求的男人，而且她还热爱自己的工作，以及对自己的自立和独立有越来越清醒的意识。
Now, I know this sounds kind of ideal,
我知道这听起来好像有些太理想，
but it's not implausible or impossible at all.
但是这并不非是不可能的。
I've seen plenty of cases like this,
我看到过很多这样的例子，
just like I've seen cases the other way.
就像我看到的就是那些负面的例子一样。
And you never know which way it's going to be.
你永远不知道这个星球最后这个人会怎么样，
But there are reasons why this is different.
但是是有原因的，为什么这两者会不同？
And this is another thing that comes out when you interact with the person.
这就是当你和这个人开始交流的时候，你会发现到的。
Okay. All right. Let's explore this a little bit.
我们再深入的看一下。
Okay. Like it says here, the most obvious difference in the positive examples, the woman seems to know and understand her own needs.
那么在这个正面的例子中，最明显的差异是，这个女人看起来更了解并且懂得了自己的需求。
Okay. So this is about awareness, isn't it?
这就是关于觉察。
She is more aware of herself and makes more balanced decisions.
她对自己更有觉察，而且能够做出更为平衡的选择。
She's found this balance between her partnership life and the things that she needs to do for herself.
她在伴侣生活和她为她自己所做的事之间找到了平衡。
Okay. All right. And we see all of this. I'm not going to read all of this because you've got it to read.
我不会读这所有的，因为大家可能都可以去读过。
We saw some of this. We saw that her husband might be a little loose financially because he doesn't maybe spend money in an organized way.
我们可以看到她的丈夫呢，可能是在财务上面呢不是很严谨，
But she
有点
trusts
散漫。
right. But she does trust him. fundamentally.
但是她还是会相信她的丈夫。
And her trust is based upon having observed his behavior for a while.
那么她的信任呢，也是因为她观察了她丈夫一段时间。
All these things we know about.
你知道所有的这一切。
Now here I want to introduce you to someone.
在这儿呢，我想给大家介绍一个人。
You will see this young woman in many future webinars that we do.
你可以在我们未来的一些课上面看到这个年轻女孩。
She is our no-door girl.
她是我们的落道女孩。
She has a lot of Virgo and Aquarius.
这个女孩有很多的处女座和水瓶座的元素。
Which means she can ask critical questions and she's very smart.
这就是说，她能够问非常多的批评性的问题，而且是她又很聪明。
And she's nice enough to let us continue to use her picture.
她挺好的，能让我们继续用她的这个照片。
And someday I may show you her chart.
那也许有一天我会让大家看看她的星图。
If she'll let me.
她会让我。
But she's our no-door girl.
她是我们的落道女孩。
Okay. And she has a question here.
她有一个问题。
This is a very important question.
这是一个非常重要的问题。
She says, I want to know what has contributed to these two different outcomes.
但是我想知道是什么原因造成了两种不同的结果。
Why is the woman in the more positive example making better choices?
为什么在这个正面的例子中，这个女人做出了更好的选择？
She's still young and she acts more wisely than in the negative example.
她还很年轻，但是她比负面例子的那个人更为明智。
How is this possible?
这是怎么做到的？
Isn't the South Node more indicative of our automatic or unthinking behavior and tendencies?
难道点不是更多的指向我们无意识的或者不经思考的行为和倾向吗？
These are good questions.
这是非常好的问题。
Okay, we can always count on the Nodo girl for good questions,
这个落道女孩总是能问一些好问题。
even though she's difficult.
虽然说她会总是给我们问点难题。
All right. Yes, the South Node is more indicative of automatic behavior and tendencies, but awareness makes all the difference when it comes to our behavior.
没错，南焦点更多的会指向无意识的行为和倾向，但是呢，在谈到行为的时候，觉知就却发挥着举足轻重的作用。
Something has brought about a greater awareness for this young woman in the positive scenario that has not occurred yet in the negative scenario.
就是在这个正面例子中，是有某件事引起了这个年轻女性更大的觉知，而在负面的例子中呢，却缺乏这种觉知。
We have to take into account the circumstances of her early environment.
我们必须要考虑到这个女性她童年的情况环境。
Of course, we don't have the complete picture of her natal chart yet.
当然，我们还没有这个人的就是整个的星图，
So we're limited in terms of what we know.
所以说我们所知的是有限的。
However, even using what we've got, we can construct some possibilities.
但是即便是我们有的这有限的材料呢，我们也可以去构建一些可能性。
This is where it gets very fascinating.
这是比较有趣的地方。
In the first, more challenging example, suppose she grew up with a mom that had impulsively married early to an unreliable man.
在第一个更具挑战性的例子中，有可能这个人的母亲呢，很年轻的时候就冲动的嫁给了一个不靠谱的男人。
Her mom may have struggled or fought with her husband, the girl's father, about money, a house.
这位母亲可能因为金钱问题，就第八宫的问题，与丈夫发生争执。
So this girl grew up in an environment that provided this kind of negative example.
所以这个女孩的成长环境给她提供了这样的负面的榜样。
However, even in this situation, the mother would have been challenged to assert herself.
不过呢，即使在这种情况下，母亲可能还是会捍卫自己，
The Aries moon, 8th house, to survive.
要求得生存。
And this would have influenced the girl growing up as well and reinforced some more first house independent behavior.
这会影响到女儿成长，有利于强化第一宫的独立自主的行为。
If her mom was away at work for long hours, the girl had to fend for herself.
如果这个母亲经常工作，这个女儿这只能自力更生。
But she also experienced the anxiety of separation,
但是她还是会感觉到分离的这种焦虑，
which is 8th house, isn't it?
这也是第八宫。
However, we are, of course, missing important clues about her father, no sun and Mars information.
那么现在呢，我们缺少关于他父亲的重要信息，因为我们不知道太阳和火星是怎么样的。
Suppose we imagine a weak father scenario.
我们想象，假如说他有一个非常虚弱的父亲，
And this inclines her to solve this unresolved problem with her father.
那么这就暗示着他需要去解决和这样一个虚弱的男性之人的关系。
Where she grows up going into a relationship with a man that has some dysfunctional, in other words, she grows up with a man who has some dysfunctional weaknesses.
也就是说，他的童年时候，他童年时期的男性呢是有这些功能就有一些这种问题的这种男性，那么他长大了以后要通过与类似的这样一个男人的关系来解决这个问题。
Right. And so she marries a man, her husband, who has drinking and gambling problems.
所以说呢，她就嫁给了一个有酗酒和赌博行为的男人。
We see this all the time, don't we?
我们总是能够看到这一点，对吗？
People will say, when people get into relationships, they're not thinking rationally.
当人们进入一段关系的时候，实际上他们并没有非常理智的思考。
A young woman may say, I would never marry anybody like my father.
一个年轻女性说，我绝不会嫁给一个像我父亲这样的男人。
So she may pick a man who doesn't look anything like her father.
所以说，她可能会选择一个看起来跟她爹一点不像的男人。
But has all the patterns.
但是呢，他这个男人的所有的模式都跟他爹一样。
And the same with a man when it comes to picking or attracting a woman.
那么男人也是一样，他可能吸引来一个跟他母亲一样的有同样模式的女性。
A man is not thinking, I like you because you remind me of my mother.
这个男人不会想我喜欢你是因为你像我妈，你让我想起我妈。
Right. But he's nonetheless attracting someone who in some way has the same pattern.
但是呢，不管怎么样，他还是会选择一个有相似模式的这样一个女性，跟他妈妈有相似模式的女性。
You're so familiar to me.
你你看起来太熟悉了。
I feel like I've known you all my life.
我觉得我好像一辈子都认识你。
You have.
没错，你确实是如此。
This is where this comes from.
这就是那个来的，这就是为什么你找到这样的人。
It must be karma.
你这可能是业力吧？
It is.
没错，确实是业力。
More than you know.
比你所了解的更多。
Okay.
就是你可能没有意识到的那些东西。
All right. What about in the positive example?
那么在正面的情况下又是如何的呢？
In the positive example, the young woman's mother may have also had to assert herself independently to help them survive financially when she was growing up.
在正面的例子中，这个女孩的母亲可能同样也需要捍卫自己的独立性。
This would still be consistent with an 8th house Aries moon.
这个与第8宫的月亮也是一致的。
Likewise, this would set an example of independence and resourcefulness.
那么同样呢，它也树立一个独立自主、足智多谋的榜样。
Yet still creates some anxiety from being separated from her mom.
但也会产生一些与母亲分离的焦虑。
However, what if, in the second case, the father had been a healthier figure or influence?
那么如果是在第2个例子中，这个父亲是一个健康的现象，给了良性的影响，
Could this make a difference in the type of man she attracts?
会不会让他吸引到不同的男人呢？
The answer is yes.
答案是是的，
Should, of course.
当然是这样。
With a more positive father influence, it would be easier for her to both attract and recognize a healthier type of male.
父亲的正面的影响会帮助他能够去认出来，就是认出来那个健康的男人，也会吸引来一个健康的男人。
And since we don't know the positions of the Sun and Mars in the chart, we can only speculate about this.
因为我们不知道这个太阳、火星的位置，我们只能去推测。
Nonetheless, either way, the key to the outcome begins with awareness.
不过不管怎么样，那最终的结局他们都始于觉知。
Even in the first example, the woman can learn through the challenges of her circumstances and experience still personal growth. Maybe it takes her longer, still personal growth.
即便是在第1个例子中，这个女性也可以学习面对境遇带来的挑战，体验重要的个人成长。即便是这种个人成长的道路比较漫长。
The more she acts upon her improved awareness, the better and more fulfilling her life will become.
她越能按照不断提升的觉知来行动，就越能获得有满足感的人生。
Of course, awareness alone is only the beginning. And it really involves 3 steps. And these are the 3 steps that you will hear me use a lot.
那么当然，觉知本身是一个起点，它实际上涉及3个步骤，你们会常常听到我提到这3个步骤。
This is our very simple but important personal growth formula.
这是我们非常重要的，非常简单但非常重要的个人成长的公式。
And this is what you do as an astrologer with your client.
这是你们作为占星师和你客户一起来做的工作。
First, you promote the awareness.
首先，你要去让他们知道觉知的重要性。
You help your client recognize or identify a repeated pattern of behavior and the consequences.
你要让你的客户去认识到他们一个重复性的行为模式，还有这个模式所带来的后果。
You help your client identify the underlying belief system and early environmental influences.
你要帮助你的客户辨识出他们潜在的信念体系和早年环境的影响。
Becoming more aware also of positive potential and positive alternatives.
对自己的正向潜能和选择更有觉知。
Notice in this awareness part of the formula, we're not just focusing on the negative.
要看到，在我们这个觉知的这样一个公式中，我们并没有只看到那些负面的东西。
Here's the secret when it comes to trying to understand our so-called karma.
我们所说的业力，其实里面有一个秘密。
It doesn't have anything to do with, oh, I was bad in a previous life, and that's why my life is so bad.
这个不是说哦，你看我在前世我这么糟糕，这是为什么我这辈子这么糟糕的原因。
No, you established a pattern in a previous life, and the pattern is repeating.
实际上就是因为你在前世你建立了一个模式，那么今世呢，这个模式又重复了。
Let me give you another example.
我给大家一个例子吧。
Let's say that in a previous life, you lost someone that you loved.
比方在前世，你失去了一个你深爱的人。
Maybe it was your best friend.
也可能是你最好的朋友。
Who knows, something terrible may have happened.
谁知道发生了什么样可怕的事情？
Maybe there was a fire and you couldn't save them.
可能是一场大火，你救不了他。
Or a flood and they drowned and you couldn't save them.
或者是洪水，他们淹死了，你也救不了他。
And you love this person very much. They were your best friend.
你非常爱他，他是你最好的朋友。
And so you grieved over the loss of them for the rest of your life, however long that was.
然后呢，后来你就一辈子陷入悲伤之中。
And you never got over that loss.
从来没有能够度过那个悲伤，那个失落。
And like a lot of people do, you blame yourself.
那很多人都会谴责自己，就发生这样的事情。
What could I do to make it different?
我能做什么能够改变这一切？
Could I have saved them?
我能做什么挽救他？
And so to cope with life, you become very detached.
为了应对这个生活，你就变得非常的疏离。
Very detached.
非常非常的疏离。
As a way of coping with grief.
这是一种我们应对悲伤的方式。
Trying to distance yourself from something that really never goes away.
就是实际上我们希望我们能够离那些永远其实走不开的事情更远一些。
Because in that life, it changed your life forever.
因为在那一辈子永远改变了你的生活。
So you became very detached.
所以你就变得非常的疏离。
Life is not safe.
因为生命并不安全。
Terrible things can happen.
可怕的事情会发生。
I will stay above it.
我会就是说超越那些可怕的事情，在他们之上，不去感知。
Guess what? You die.
然后你猜会怎么样
？Like we all do.
像我们大家你也死了。
And then you go, oh, I see, I get it.
然后你说，我知道了。
I want another chance.
我想再来一次。然后死后你会这么想。
I want another chance.
我想再来一次。
So you come back.
然后又回来了。
But you come back right where you left off with the same, you can only enter through the same pattern.
但是呢，你是从你离开那个地方回来的，你只能通过就是同样的模式回来。
Because as a human being, that's all you know.
因为作为一个人，你所知道的就是这么多，
So you still start singing the same song.
所以说你还是会唱同样一首歌。
Not only that,
不仅如此，
but you probably will grow up in an environment where your parents leave you alone because you seem detached.
就可能是你会成长这个环境中，你的父母都不管你，所以说你看着特别疏离。
Maybe your father's a very detached man.
也许你的父亲就是一个非常疏离
Maybe your
的人
mother's detached.
啊，或者你母亲是这样一个人。
And this is what you grew up in this environment because this is what you're used to.
你就在这样的成长环境中成长起来了，因为这是你熟悉的环境，这是你过去你就是这么这个环境。
More than likely, there's going to be some 8th house or Pluto signature there
就很可能有一些8宫还有冥王星的这样一个标志在那里，
about unresolved grief,
就是那些没有被解决的这种悲伤。
and it will happen in the life.
那么这种被解决的悲伤呢，又会在生活中重现，
And there'll be this catharsis
然后呢，你才会有这样的进化。
and the end of detachment.
然后就是那种就是让你这种疏离才能结束。
The point of this is it's about patterns.
我所说的这个意思就是说，这全部都是模式。
So all it really is patterns. You can understand the pattern, you have awareness, that's the first step.
所以说，就所有重要的一个模式，如果你对这个模式有觉察的话呢，这就是第一步。
It's not about blaming your parents.
这不要去责备你们的父母，
It's not about blaming anyone.
也不要去责备任何人，
It's about trying to understand what's going on.
而是要去理解到底是发生了什么。
It's about trying to understand why do things keep happening this way?
而是要去理解为什么事情总是一遍一遍这样的发生，同样的发生。
Why do I find myself in this place again?
为什么我发现我又落入同样的状态了？
In this life?
在这辈子怎么又这样了？
All my boyfriends are the same.
我所有的男朋友都是同样的，
They may look different, but it's the same thing.
他们看起来都不一样，但实际上都是同一个样子。
I'm tired of this.
我受够了，
I'm over it.
我真的是受够了。
Boom. Beginning of change.
然后这样的话，才开始改变。
But to change it, you've got to understand what's going on.
但是为了改变，你就必须去理解到底发生了什么。
So this awareness is about recognizing the pattern. This is where astrology is so useful.
你的觉知就是一定要认出来这个模式，这是占星学为什么这么有用的地方。
Because astrology not only then helps you recognize the pattern,
因为占星学不仅帮助你发现这样的模式，
if you use the symbols, it even suggests to you the solution.
如果是你真的是了解这些象征符号的话，它也会暗示你的解药是什么，
And it shows you your greater potential.
而且会告诉你最大的潜能是什么。
You may think, well, I was born with a Sun-Jupiter conjunction and I've never traveled anywhere.
你可能想，我的本命图上有太木合相，但是我哪儿也没去旅行过。
Maybe because your father said to you, you'll never amount to anything and never go anywhere.
那也可能是因为你父亲曾经对你说，你什么也成不了，你哪儿也去不了，
And you believed him.
你也相信了，
Say, you believed him.
你就相信了，
Because you were little
因为当时你很小，
and you believed him for whatever reason.
不论什么原因，你就相信了你爸爸。
Okay? And all of a sudden you look at your chart and you go, wow, I have a Sun-Jupiter conjunction.
那突然间你看到你的星图，你说哇，我有个太木合相啊！
I've always liked to read National Geographic.
我总是喜欢看国家地理杂志，
I would like to travel.
我想去旅行，
This is really true.
这是真的，
I have this potential.
我有这样的潜力，
I can do this.
我可以做到。
So you open to that potential.
所以说这样的话，你就开启了那个潜能。
This is another thing you do as an astrologer. You not only identify what is and why it is, you identify what can be.
这就是你作为占星师的作用。你不仅可以看到是什么样子，为什么是这个样子，你还可以看到未来可以是什么样子。
Yeah. So it's amazing it's so much fun to help people realize their potential.
就是帮助别人认识到他们的潜能，这个是太有意思的事儿了。
But it's not about building up some kind of false expectations.
但是呢，这也不是你要建起来一个虚假的预期。
You've got to be patient with your clients,
你一定要对你的客户很有耐心，
especially when they're young.
特别是当他们年轻，还很年轻的时候。
It takes a while to grow into your chart.
要经过一段时间，才能慢慢的长成你星图的样子。
This is why you develop relationships with your clients.
这是为什么你要跟你们的客户建立起来发展这个和他发展关系。
You want to keep and build this relationship with your client.
你要慢慢的跟他客户建立和发展你们之间的关系。
You may know them a long time, 10 years, 15, 20, 30.
你要认识他们很久很久，也许是10年、15年、20年、30年。
Some of the things you will say to a client the first time they come in to see you may not develop for 20 years.
就可能你第一次客户来见你的时候，你对他的说的话，可能要他花20年的时间才能发展出来这样的能力。
But it will,
但是呢，他最终还是会发展出来。
and your client will have the recording
你的客户会有那个录音的，
because you will have forgotten you told them.
因为你已经忘了你告诉过他这样的话，
Because you have so many clients, you can't remember what you said.
因为你有这么多客户，你根本不记得你说了什么了。
They have the recording,
但是他们还有那个录音，
and they listen to it.
他们会听那个录音，
When they come back in to see you, they say, I listened to that first recording we did 20 years ago.
然后他们再回来见你时候，他们说，你知道吗？我又重经历一遍20年前你给
And
我做的。
every damn thing we talked about has happened.
我们那时候说的这些见鬼的事儿都发生了。
At the time, I thought you were talking about someone in the next room.
那时候我以为你在谈论隔壁的那个人呢。
All right. Now, you build relationships with your clients,
你和你的客户之间建立的这样的关系，
which is good for them,
这对他们好，
but it's also good for business.
对你的生意也好。
Let's be very practical about it.
我们来实际一点。
Astrology is a consulting business.
占星学实际上是一个咨询的行业，
You're trying to do something good.
你想做一些善事，
You're trying to help people,
你想去帮助人们，
and you will help people.
你们也会帮助他人。
But you're also paid money to do this.
但是呢，别人要付给你钱这么做，
All right. So it is a business.
所以说这是一个生意。
So you're building relationships with your clients. You better do a good job.
所以说你最好好干，这样的话你才能建立起来这样的好的关系。
Tell them what you know and tell them what you don't know.
告诉他们你所知道的，也告诉他们你不知道。
If you don't know something, tell your client you do not know.
如果你不知道，你就告诉他们你不知道。
But together, you and your client are on a journey of discovering the truth.
但是实际上呢，你和你的客户共同在这个旅途中，你们一起去发现。
What's the second step in personal growth?
在个人成长的第2步是什么呢？
Acceptance.
就是接纳，
Acceptance.
接纳。
Sounds so easy.
听起来这么简单，
It's not easy.
不简单呀。
Acceptance takes some deep breathing
那么你要深呼吸才能真正的去接纳，
and usually a lot of tears.
常常会带着很多的眼泪。
Okay? Yes. Because it means finally getting to that place where you can accept what is without judgment.
因为你最终真的到了那个地方，那时候你可以接纳那一切，而且不带任何评判的接纳。
All of us, carry around a courtroom in our heads.
实际上，我们每一个人脑袋里面都带着一个会议室。
In that courtroom, there's a district attorney that hates us.
那么在那个不是会议室，是一个法庭啊，在那个法庭里面呢，就有一些恨我们的律师。
And a mostly unfriendly jury.
而且我在那个法庭里面有那个最不友善的陪审团。
And a judge that's frowning at us.
而且那个法官也对着我们皱眉头。
This is the courtroom that everyone carries around with them.
我们每个人都在这个法庭到处走。
And we're always defending ourselves.
而我们随时随刻都在防御我们自己。
What are we defending ourselves from?
我们自己在就是说在抵御些什么呢？
The courtroom in our own heads.
其实我们在抵御的是我们脑子里的那个法庭。
You may think you are defending yourself from someone else, but you're not.
你可能想我其实是在抵抗别人，实际上不是这样的。
You are only defending yourself from yourself.
你其实就是在防御你自己，
And the judgments you carry with you.
而且还有那些你带着的那些评判。
Once you have acceptance,
一旦你真的去接纳，
real acceptance,
真正的接纳，
without judgment,
没有任何的评判，
with understanding,
带着理解，
you begin to feel peaceful.
然后你就可以感觉到那个平和。
Peaceful acceptance of your past emerges.
那么
Peaceful acceptance of your past emerges.
就是说接纳你的过去，平和的接纳你的过去，
And you begin to open and accept the possibilities of your own positive potential.
只要当这个浮现的时候呢，你才能开始对于你的正向的潜能敞开，你才可能开启你正向的潜能。
But it won't happen, people can say positive things to you, right?
别人可能会对你说一些正面的反馈，好吧。
What do we do when people say positive things to us?
当别人对我们说正面的话的时候，我们会怎么样呢？
A lot of times, most of the time, in fact, we'll say, "Oh, that's nice.
我们会说你说这话你真好，
It's very nice of you to say that."
你这么说你真好。
I'd like to think that could be true,
我也觉得这样是真的，
but I kind of don't think so.
但是我自己其实不这么认为，
Because we are blocking that potential
因为我们其实是在阻碍我们的潜能，
because of judgment.
因为我们的这些评判。
Wow. You find peaceful acceptance, you're finding a little bit what it's like to feel like Buddha.
当你真正的是平和的接纳的时候，你就会感觉你像佛陀一样，
Even if it's just for 5 seconds.
哪怕只有5秒钟，
You can be Buddha for 5 seconds.
你可以是5秒钟的佛陀，
Best 5 seconds of your life.
这是你一辈子最好的5秒钟。
You felt acceptance of yourself for 5 seconds.
你觉得你可以在5秒钟内接纳你自己，
That brings about a miracle.
那么这也会带来一些奇迹。
It's amazing to see what happens.
然后你会看到会发生什么。
My clients have amazed me in this sense.
我的客户常常让我惊叹。
When I see my clients finally accept something,
当我看到我的客户最终接纳了一些事情的时候，
I never know what's going to happen.
我永远不会知道未来会发生什么了。
I never know at that point what they're going to really do with their life.
在那一刻，我就不知道我的客户他们的人生他们会去做什么了。
I can guess,
我只能去猜测，
but I'm only guessing.
但我只不过是猜测而已。
Most of the time after that, they amaze me.
在大部分情况下，在那一刻出现了以后，他们会都让我惊叹他
And
们未来。
they go and do things that are way beyond what I even imagined.
他们会去做一些就是超出我想象的事情。
So that's what's so much fun for you as the astrologer.
这也是作为占星师这么有趣的原因。
Which is why I've said to many clients, I want you go ahead and do things that I could never have predicted.
这就是为什么我常常对我的客户说，去做一些事情吧，让我永远无法预测。
I want you to go beyond the limits of your astrologer's thinking.
我希望你能够去做出一些超出你们占星师思考之外的这样的事情。
Okay. Now, third step, of course, is what we're talking about here is change, real change.
第3步我们这里讲的就是改变，真正的改变。
This is what follows acceptance.
这就是接纳之后会
This
发生的。
is when you can finally say, I'm in a relationship with someone, and the experience is totally different than anything I've ever had.
那么你最后你可能想我现在在一个关系中，而且我所经历的是跟我原来经历的完全不一样。
I never knew this kind of intimacy was even possible.
我从来不知道这样程度的这种亲密关系还是有可能的。
I never knew I could make this much money.
我从来不知道我能赚这么多的钱。
I never knew that I would not care about money.
我从来不知道我会对钱一点都不会在意，都不
These
在
are
意了。
changes people go through,
这都是人们去经历那些改变的阶段。
where they find themselves having experience they never even themselves imagined they could have.
当他们发现他们自己都想不到的那一些经历。
Right? And you'll get to where you see this all the time, actually.
那最后呢，你如果是走到那点的话，你可以。
It's always exciting,
这总是令人兴奋的。
even when it becomes your routine.
哪怕就是说这变成了你的生活的这个惯常的例行的事物。
I can tell you, as I've said before, there were many times in my astrology practice when I got so much from it myself, I thought they should be paying, I should be paying them.
我跟大家说过，在占星的咨询中，有时候我觉得我从我的客户那里学到那么多，我甚至觉得我应该付我客户的钱，
Right.
付钱给我的客户。
You know, I should be paying them. This is great.
他们太棒了。
All right. So this is what the astrology that you're learning is really all about.
这就是你们所学的占星学它的关键所在。
Now, eventually, you know, once we get through EAC and you go on to COAC, you'll learn all these things about forecasting techniques and prediction and all this stuff.
就是说我们学到初阶、中阶，最后学到高阶，你们学到那些预测技术的时候。
And all of those techniques you will eventually learn will make you a better guesser.
所有你们所学的那些技术，就是会让你们成为一个更好的能够去猜的人，猜测的人。
Right. But you'll still be just guessing.
但是你们不过还是在猜。
And you'll be a little better guesser.
你们不过是猜得更好一些而已。
Okay. But you will also know more how to say things that elicit a more powerful response in your client.
不过呢，你们是要去说一些什么样的话，能够在你的客户身上引发他们更正向的这样一些反应。
Now, I also totally understand the search for the holy grail of prediction.
我也是非常的明白那些想去寻找那个就是预测的圣杯。
You know, some technique or method that's going to predict every single thing that is happening in this person's life or that will happen.
好像有一种技术可以来预测这个人生命中发生的每一件事。
All young astrologers are attracted to this idea. Almost all young.
所有的年轻的占星师，他们都被这样的想法所吸引。
And you can learn a lot searching for the Holy Grail.
你们可以通过去寻找这样的圣杯学到很多。
But it's about the journey.
但实际上更关键的是这个旅程。
That's what it's about.
这是更重要的。
Because when you get to the end of the journey,
因为当你到达旅程的终点的时候，
you will find there is no magic bullet of prediction.
你们会发现根本没有什么预测的这样的魔弹。
Even though you will do a better job than the weatherman on TV.
即便是你比那个天气预报员能做的稍微好一点。
Okay, who still gets paid.
就说哪怕这个天气预报员他还有人付他钱。
Even when they were wrong about the weather that happened 12 hours ago.
就说哪怕是他们对于2小时前的那个预测都出了错，还是会有人付他们工资的。
And when they won't talk about it.
而且他们也不会说这个。
Astrologers will say, I was wrong.
但是呢，占星师还得说我预测错了。
My analysis was incorrect.
我的分析不正确。
And here's why I think it was.
这是为什么？原因是这样的。
That's a responsible astrologer.
这是一个非常负责任的占星师。
The weatherman will never say, sorry.
那天气预报员永远不会说对不起。
I know it rained on you yesterday, and I said it was still supposed to be clear. I know it rained on you. I'm sorry.
就是说我本来是说天气晴朗，但是我知道那个下雨了，你也淋了。
They will never say that.
他们永远不会这么承认他们的错误的。
All right. And they keep their jobs.
但是他们还能保住他们的工作。
Okay. All right. Here we see the chart, which eventually we will look at in this course.
那么这个时候是我们看到的这个星图，在这个
We see
课件上，
this young woman
这个年轻的女性
holding up a chart here.
她拿着一个星图。
Okay. So in analyzing each and every planetary combination, it's wise to consider the potential for both constructive and destructive manifestation, isn't it?
所以在分析每颗行星和各种组合的时候，同时考虑建设性和破坏性的潜在可能性是明智之举。
Now, here's how I used to do that when I was studying astrology as a student.
当我学占星的时候，我经常这么做。
And you can do this yourself.
你自己也可以这么做。
I would say, on one hand, this could manifest this way.
我会说，一方面这个可以这种方式表现出来，
But on the other hand, it can manifest this way.
那另一方面呢，它可以那种方式表现出来。
Now, I'm a Libra. That kind of thinking works for me.
我是一个天秤座的人，所以说这样的想法看来对我是很有效的。
Okay? And I can see both could be true.
我可以看到两者都可能是对的。
The constructive and destructive potential exists in the person.
那么建设性和那个破坏性的一面都同时存在于这个人。
And what I would find in practice
那么我在实践中会发现，
is that most people were a little of both.
那么大部分人呢，基本上是两点都是有的。
Every now and then you would get it polarized.
那有的时候你会发现这个会有两极的这种状况。
Every now and then you'd have that scary client.
时不时的你会有一个非常令人可怕的客户。
You know, the one that comes in with the gun poked into his pants.
那么有一个就是说腰里别着枪的一个客户走进来。
So you have to set the gun down on the table while you're doing the session.
所以说呢，当你做咨询的时候呢，你得让他把那个枪放到桌上才行。
But that doesn't happen too often.
但这种情况也不会常常发生。
Most of the time it's a mixture of the two in each of us.
大部分情况是我们每个人身上都存在，两者同时存在，并存的。
And when you talk with a client about it that way,
那你跟你客户这样聊的时候，
they see the truth.
他们能够看到那个真相到底是什么。
Because they say, yeah,
他们会说，是啊，
I can be this way and I can be this way.
没错，我可能是这种样子的，那我也可能是那种样子的。
And then you can have a conversation with them about where that comes from and why it is and what the pattern is and so on.
然后你就可以看到，这样的行为模式是起源是什么？它是怎么回事来？
Remember, a natal chart, when you're interpreting a birth chart,
要记得，当你去解读一个本命盘的时候，
you are doing forecasting.
实际上你是在做的是预测。
Because you're talking about the moment this person took their first breath.
因为你在谈的是这个人他吸第一口气的时候，
And that you're predicting from that moment how this person might evolve.
实际上你在看这个星图是他在吸一口气之后这个人你才预测的是他之后他到底是变成了一个什么样的人。
And what the issues would be in their life. That's prediction.
然后他们生命中会有什么样的议题，这其实就是预测了。
So you're really always predicting as an astrologer.
所以说，作为占星师，实际上你时时刻刻都在做预测。
Predicting, forecasting, analyzing. Predicting, forecasting, analyzing.
不断的预测，然后分析，
And presenting your analysis to the client.
然后把你的分析呢展示给你的客户，
And asking them questions.
然后问他们问题，
And getting feedback from them.
从他那里面得到反馈。
So you can give them more information.
那这样的话，你可以给他们更多的信
This
息。
feedback loop.
这就是那个反馈环，
So important.
这非常非常的重要。
You're going to have, if those of you who go on to either become professional astrologers or study it for your own individual purposes, your own individual reasons, you have so much to look forward to.
不论是你们成为职业占星师，还是说你们就是自己在自己学习，
Okay.
你们未来都有
Now, we have
很有趣
I
的
have
未来。
some keyword exercises for you to practice.
我这里面有一些关键词的练习。
And those of you who are really industrious and have a lot of Capricorn, 10 Taos type of stuff,
你们如果是一个非常勤勉的学生，而且你有很多摩羯座、时宫的元素，
you can create your own keyword exercises
你们可以自己创造出自己的关键词练习，
and share them with us,
然后跟我们分享一下你们的关键词练习。
unless you think that will give the other students an unfair competitive advantage.
除非你认为你这样就给别人了一些不公平的，让他们有这样的占尽先机。
Okay. All right. Here's where you take these paragraphs and you substitute in what you think the key symbols should be.
这就是你看一些这些段落，然后你把觉得这些段落和哪些那个星座元素联系在一起，
Okay.
放进来。
North Node in Capricorn in the blank house involves acquiring confidence and learning that your greatest success will come from trusting your own individual talents.
那北焦点落在摩羯座哪一宫，涉及获得自信。
You got to
或者是
read the
显示到你
whole
最大
paragraph.
成功将来自于相信你个人的能力。
You got to read the whole paragraph
你要读一遍整个的这个段落，
before you jump to conclusions.
在你就是得出自己的结论，迅速的得出结论之前。
Your South Node in Cancer in the blank house implies that you tend to secure yourself as part of a team or group.
南焦点在巨蟹座多少宫，意味着作为一个团队的一份子，让你感觉到获得安全感，让你获得安全感。
which is more typical of joining a company or an organization for career security.
更为常见的情况是加入公司或组织以获得职业安全感。
However, over time, you are likely to feel the urge to succeed at something that either puts you in more of a leadership or management role, or even break away altogether and form maybe to break away altogether from a secure company and found your own business.
但随着时间推移，你们可能非常渴望获得成功，跻身于管理层，成为领导者，甚至可能离开感到安全的公司，自己造老板，走上创业路。
This takes time.
这需要时间，
Standing out from the group,
在团体中脱颖而出，
showcasing your talents.
展现自己的才华。
Okay, what do you think are the houses here?
你们觉得这个宫位是哪个宫位呢？
511. Who said that?
5宫11宫。
是的。
是的。
对。Right. Okay. So what did we say online here? Look, we got 11 here. See there? We got to give them some credits here.
Yeah.
All right. Now I want you to do the same thing with these other ones. Okay?
我希望大家就是这样做其他的这个练习。
What I want to do now is I want to open up the latter part of this first webinar with questions, because we're doing a kind of review on sign, planet, house combinations before we get into aspects next week. See? So I want you to ask me some questions.
现在我们是答疑时间，大家可以来问一些问题。就是下周我们就开始讲新的课程了。
Okay, we had a bunch of them
Yes,
here,
there's
yeah.
a question.
Okay.
我就是这样的往上走吧。有一位同学问，月亮和月亮焦点哪个更重要？更准确了解一个人和盘主的盘的配置或分布关系？是的，就是对。
Okay. What is it?
就是月亮和月亮焦点哪个更重要？更能准确的了解一个人？稍等哈，先不要打，我先回答就是这个张家军的这个问题。Which is more important, moon on lunar node? Which can we understand one person more accurately?
Which is more important, moon
or
lunar node?
Yes.
Okay.
和盘主的盘的配置或分布有关系吗？
Okay, let me ask that.
Does it related to the whole configuration of the chart?
Yes. Okay. It's really it's not about which one is the more important.
关键不是说哪个更重要。
At least not in this case.
那起码是在这个例子中。
I want you to think of a chart as layers.
你们要把这个星图想成它是一层一层的。
And the first question that you ask, at least the first question I always would ask in looking at any chart, is why?
这第一个问题你要问的就是为什么？
为什么? Why is this person here?
这个人为什么到这个世上来？
Why is this person in this life at all?
这个人为什么会在这个生命中？
What the hell are they doing?
他们到这儿来到底是怎么回
This
事？
is what I want to know.
这是我想知道的事情。
I want to know this.
我想了解这一点。
This is the question I used to argue out, walking back and forth until it would drive me insane.
这经常是我在那个房间里踱来踱去，想这个问题，想到发疯的一个问题。
Okay, that's a very powerful question.
这是一个非常非常有力的问题。
You may never answer it in totality.
你可能不太可能完全的能够回答这个问题。
Someone once said to me, the purpose of living is to discover the purpose of living.
有人曾经对我说，活着的意义就是要去发现活着的意义。
I was very angry at that person.
那个时候我对这个人的回答非常生气。
Which naturally with Mars and Sagittarius I would be.
当然了，我火星在射手座，当然我会很生气。
Why did you say that?
你为什么要这么说呢？
Big smile from an old man.
这是一个年长者，他带着一个大大的微笑。
Okay. The lunar nodes by sign and house are the first thing to look at before you look at anything else.
那么月亮焦点的星座和宫位是在你看星图其他元素之前第一个要去看的。
We're talking about a layered approach to interpretation.
我们现在谈的是一个一层层渐进的这样一个解读的方法。
Okay. And this layered approach again begins with the question, why is this person in this life?
那么这样一个一层层的解读始于这样一个问题：这个人为什么他来到这个世界上？
And the lunar nodes begin to help you understand why.
那么月亮焦点开始帮助你理解为什么这个问题。
And the lunar nodes give you a framework within which to understand the rest of the chart.
那么月亮焦点也给了你个架构，带着这个架构，你可以去理解星图的其他部分。
Because if you can begin to understand the storyline, the theme of this person's life, then all of the rest of it begins to fall into place.
因为一旦你开始了解这个人生命故事的主题，那它其他的部分呢，都会更清晰起来。
Now, yes, the moon is important.
当然，月亮是很重要的，
There's no question about that.
这毫无疑问。
The moon is the most human thing about us.
月亮是我们最人性的那个部分。
You know? The moon is our insecurities, our moody, fearful insecurities.
月亮是我们的不安全感，是我们那种充满恐惧、不断变化、情绪化的那种不安全感。
We are playing the human game here.
我们在玩人类的游戏。
We are higher primates.
我们是灵长类动物，
And like all primates, we are very insecure.
就像所有的灵长类动物一样，我们是非常没有安全感的。
Just skip lunch and watch how your mood changes.
你看看你不吃一顿午饭，你看看你的情绪会不会有什么变化？
This is the moon.
这就是月亮。
Okay? All right. Our moods, the shifting of our feelings of security, normal
我们的
human
情
thing.
绪一直在变化，然后这也会造成我们的不安全感，安全感来回变化。
So the lunar nodes help you to understand the big picture.
那个月亮焦点可以让你看到全局，
They provide you with a theme of beginning to understand why the person is even in this life.
它会告诉你这个人为什么来到这个世界上，告诉你这样一个主题。
They provide you with clues as to where someone is coming from and where they want to go.
它会告诉你一个线索，这个人从哪里来到哪里去。
The moon will tell you a lot about what a person needs in order to feel secure.
那么月亮会告诉我们要感觉到安全，这个人需要什么？
But it can even be more than that.
但是比这个更多。
The moon provides clues about family,
月亮还会告诉我们关于家庭，
about nurturing influences like mother.
我们滋养我们那些影响。
What can be more important than mom?
什么能比妈更重要了？
Any of us that try to think, oh, that's just psychology.
这是那些老旧的心理学。
He wants to know about my mother.
他想知道我妈是什么样的。
Yeah. Guess what? It's true.
真的，我告诉你吧，真的就是这样。
You better find out.
你最好去了解这一点吧。
You better understand.
你最好能理解这一点。
That's the moon.
这就是月亮。
Very important.
这非常非常的重要。
For a planet our size, did you know we have a very large moon?
对我们这样一个星球来说，地球这样一个体积来说，你知道吗？我们的月亮的体积是非常大的。
The moon is very close to us.
月亮离我们非常近。
And the moon, according to astronomers, was once a part of the Earth.
而且天文学家说，那个月亮曾经是地球的一部分。
It was broken off back when the Earth was made of molten lava. When the Earth was made of molten
像那个地球上是岩浆状态的时候，那个月亮就分离出去了。
An asteroid came in and hit it.
一个小行星撞击了地球，然后那个月亮就弹出去了，
And knocked
分离出去了。
and knocked a piece of it out.
然后他们就分离出去了，作为
And that became our moon.
那个就成为了我们的月亮。
Okay, how about that?
Isn't
that interesting? It's also interesting that the round disk of our moon is the same size as the round disk of our sun from the Earth's point of view.
而且更有趣的是，从地球的角度来观察的话，那个月亮的直径和太阳的直径好像一样大。
Scientifically, we know that the sun is huge.
那么我们从科学里我们知道从科学角度来看，我们知道太阳大得多。
And that 96% of the mass of our solar system is made up of the sun.
我们太阳系96%的这种质量都是太阳。
But from the Earth's point of view, the sun and moon look like they're the same size.
但是从地球上看，太阳和月亮看上去一样大。
Mom and Dad.
这就是一个是爸爸，一个是妈妈。
Right there. And the moon's the closest to us. The sun's further away.
而且月亮离我们更近，而太阳呢离我们更远。
It's very interesting.
这也很有趣，对吗？
All right. So what's important? What has priority in a chart? Lunar nodes, the moon, the sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars. Ascendant. I haven't gotten to. Well, I'll say ascendant. You can say that.
OK， 所以说什么对我们更重要呢？月亮焦点、月亮、太阳、那个什么水星啊、金星啊、火星啊等等等等等等。
I should have said that.
OK，
Next time, I can say that. I'll say that next time. All right. So these are the personal planets.
这些都是个人行星。
Okay. And they have priority when you're looking at a chart.
就是说，当你看一个星图的时候，个人行星呢，它们更重要，它们有优先度。
We will learn more about how to do that a little further in this course.
我们在后面我们会讲。
What are some other questions?
Some other question.
Yeah, come up here and ask it. Come here, show your face, let everybody see you.
这个问题，
嗨，大家好，我是 Helen。其实我想问的问题就是说，因为我们刚才说的这个，北焦点，它是这个就是今生的一个 I don't know how to say this in Chinese. Let me just finish first. So for North Node is the purpose of this life, right? So what
Overall direction.
Yeah, direction. What about the sun? Because the sun is also the purpose of life and your like your goal. So what's the difference?
The sun is a little bit more like the chairman of the board, or the master of ceremony.
Right.
Okay. And the sun's very important in decision making. Okay, then we need to translate that into Chinese.
还有呢，因为说我们知道北焦点是我们今生的方向，那么太阳呢？太阳是它不也很重要吗？是吗？就太阳到底是和北焦点有什么不一样呢？那么大卫老师说，北焦点我们知道是我们人生的方向，那太阳呢？它更像我们董事会的主席，或者是我们庆典时候的那个 master of celebration.
Master of ceremonies, you know, the guy up there with the microphone saying.
就是那个也是还是主席吧？就是庆典时候那个主持。
Welcome to the show, everyone.
这个主持人说欢迎大家来到我们这个表演。
Tonight, our panel of judges.
今天晚上我们的评审团是
That's the sun.
这是太阳的位置，要做决定。
Okay, but the way to think of all these planets in the chart wheel, of course.
那么我们看着这个星图，想象这些行星。
And some of you've heard me say this before.
你们可能有些人前听我这样讲过。
Is to think of this as like a committee.
你们要把这个想成一个委员会。
Or a company.
或者一个公司。
And you have a meeting, and everyone is sitting around the table.
你们在开一个会议，每个人都坐在桌子边。
The sun and moon, they're at the head of the table.
那么太阳和月亮，他们是就是这个桌边的最重要的这两个头。
They're the chief executive officers.
他们是那个 CEO 这个角色。
But all the planets represent members of that corporation, members of that company or committee.
但是呢，这所有的这些行星呢，代表着这个公司或者这个委员会的成员。
The house that planet is in is the department it works in.
那么这个行星所在的那个宫位是这个人他所在的那个部门。
And the sign it's in is how it goes about doing that work.
那么他所在的那个星座是他们会怎么样做那个部门的事情，他们会怎么样去做。
Okay? So you can think of a chart that way. It's like a big table.
你就可以这样想这个星图，就像一个大圆桌。
You have people sitting around the table.
有人是坐在桌边。
Okay? And they're all having a conversation.
他们所有人都在聊天。
They're all
都在
trying
谈
to
话。
make a decision.
他们都在一起想做一个决定。
This is actually how the human mind works.
这就是人类他的头脑是怎么样去运作的。
And interestingly enough, one of the ways we know this
非常有趣的是，我们知道这个的一种方式是，
in psychology
就是在心理学里面，
is because of what happens to the human mind when someone is schizophrenic.
就是说，当一个人他精神分裂的时候，我们的脑子就会出现这种状况。
In schizophrenia, the ability to have a sense of I or me goes away.
在精神分裂的时候，就是我们能够认知出我的这样的能力没有了。
The sun and moon are not running the show anymore.
就是说，太阳和月亮不再去主持这个演出了。
Everybody in the committee has a voice.
就是说这个每个人都开始有个声音了，就是在委员会里面每个人。
And that's exactly the way schizophrenics behave.
那就是一个精神分裂的行为。
It's a committee that never makes a decision.
这样一个委员会永远没法做出一个决定。
And therefore cannot function in the world.
因此，他就在世界上他没法正常运转了。这个人。
All right? So understand that, huh?
理解了这一点吗？
Come up here and ask this question, then we'll answer some more out there. Okay.
我想问一下，我看了一个人的星图，然后他的一宫是在天平座，然后不是南交天平落在一宫，然后北交白羊，不是他的北交白羊落在七宫，然后他的月亮落在10宫巨蟹座。我觉得这个全是相反的意思，怎么去理解这个
？South Node in first house in Libra, North Node in seventh house in Aries.
I love this example.
Yes, but Moon in 10th house in Cancer. It seems all of this are opposite,
right.
Have opposite meaning.
And you're going to see this a lot. This is common in charts that either have Libra rising or late Virgo rising.
这个你们会看到很多这样的状况，要么这个是上升是那个比较甜的天秤座，或者是比较厚的处女座。
Okay. For example,
比如说
North Node in Aries in the 7th.
北交点在在七宫白羊座。
This is someone who's learning how to be assertive through the experience of relationships.
这个人要通过他们的关系去学习到如何去坚定自己的主张。
If I see a chart that's got the North Node in Aries in the 7th house, I know they need a partner they can fight with.
如果我看到一个这样的星图，我就知道这个人需要一个他们可以跟他干仗的这样一个伴侣。
This is exactly what they need.
他们就需要这样一个伴侣。
Because they're learning how to assert themselves.
因为他们要去学习怎么样坚持他们自己的主张。
And how to fight, and usually they're not very good at it.
然后知道如何去干仗。
So
那么而且呢，他们一般来说他们不太善于这个。
So they will attract someone who is.
所以说呢，他就会吸引来这样一个人。
And they will learn through that relationship.
他们就从这段关系中去学习。
Okay. Because what does Libra in the first house mean?
因为那个第一宫天秤座意味是什么呢？
It means that I'm good at being able to get what I need for me because of how I smile at others.
因为它就意味着我很擅长于向别人微笑，得到我所需要的东西。
How I appear to cooperate.
我看起来好像挺合作的。
In order to get my self-interest met.
然后能够让我的自我利益得以达成。
A Libra rising person, for example, is somebody who is socially assertive.
一个上升 天秤座的人，他在社交场合里面其实是比较主动的。
My granddaughter one of my granddaughters has Libra rising.
我的一个孙女儿，她的上升是天秤座，
She calls me Pop.
她叫我 Pop。
That's my grandfather's name.
就是说这就是我们那个他们都叫 Pop。
Pop.
祖
She
父。
says, Pop, why don't we go do this?
她说，哎，爷爷，我们一块儿去做这个吧。
Okay? This is Libra on the ascendant.
这就是天秤座在上升点，
Okay? So that's Libra in the first house.
那就是天秤座一宫。
Okay? Aries in the seventh. So understand the difference between the signs and houses.
那个你看这个星座和宫位的不同。
Cancer in the 10th. What about that?
巨蟹座10宫，这意味着什么呢
Was this Moon in Cancer in
？Moon in
the 10th?
Cancer in
Okay,
Cancer。
Moon in 10th.
嗯
This is someone who needs to be in a profession that allows them to be nurturing.
那么他需要在这样一个职业中，这个职业能够允许他们扮演一个非常滋养人的角色，
Or some type of nurturing enterprise.
或者是一个非常滋养性的这样一个公司。
I have a client who many years ago came to me and wanted to know if he should open up a restaurant.
我有个客户，他很多年前他找我问他是不是应该开一个餐厅。
He had the sun and moon, still does, in Cancer in the 10th house.
他的太月都在巨蟹座10宫，
He came from a family of people in the food business.
他的家族就是在餐馆行业的
And he wanted
饮食行业。
to know if he should open up this restaurant.
他想问我，他是不是应该开一家餐厅？
And I said, the timing looks good and you can do this, yeah.
我说这个时机不错，你也能做。
And his restaurant was very successful. It's still there today.
他的餐馆非常的成功，现在还在经营。
Okay, that's Cancer in the 10th house.
那就是10宫的巨蟹座。
The 10th house is career, but it's still going to be your public life, but it's still going to express Cancer.
就是10宫是他职业，也是我们的公共生活，但是呢，他是要通过巨蟹座的方式表达出来。
This is how you use astrologic.
这就是你怎么样运用占星的逻辑的。
The sign is always the sign, the house is always the house.
那么星座总是星座，宫位总是宫位。
Something may look like a contradiction, but it's only a contradiction to us.
那么有时候有些看起来好像是有些互相矛盾，但是只不过是因为在我们的头脑里他们矛盾而已。
In life, it finds a way to function.
在生活中他们就会找到一种方式，让这些都能运转起来。
And if you just think it through, you'll see, wow, okay, this is how it does that.
如果是你真能是这样去彻底的去想的话，你就看到这是怎么样，这个他为什么会去做这样的事儿。
What about Moon? What about Capricorn in the 4th?
那4宫摩羯座又意味着什么呢？
That may be someone to where the status of their family is very important.
就是说这个人他的家庭的地位是非常重要的。
Their motivation in terms of working may be so that they can have their castle.
那么他们的工作的动力是因为他们希望最后他们有他们自己的城堡，
Or their penthouse apartment.
或者是他们的联排别墅。
Capricorns like high places, you know.
不是，他们的那种高层的那个什么。
So they can
因为
look-
摩
they
羯
can
座
look-
他们喜欢那个高层的建筑，
yeah, they can look down on everybody, you know.
这样的话他们可以俯视所有其他人。
I'm up here.
我在那个上面，
You're down there.
你们在下面。
Okay. What's another question here?
Too many questions.
It's okay. Too many questions.
No. They're talking about.
You're a Gemini rising. You should like that.
Yeah. 这个问题呢，好像又太零散了。
Just pick one that's interesting to you.
This is maybe good. What's the difference about Moon in Aries in 8th house and Moon in Aries in 7th house? What's the difference? The 7th house only concern about establish relationship quickly, but not take into account those issues that 8th house consider.
Yes, I would say that's true. And guess what? I'll give you another example with my granddaughter.
那么7宫的白羊和8宫的白羊有什么不一样？难道7宫就白羊就想迅速的建立关系，而不去考虑8宫那些事情吗？老师说你说的是有些真理在里面的。我告诉你的一个我孙女的故事吧。
The 8th house is not as trusting as the 7th.
月亮八宫的人，他不像七宫那么容易去信任人。
It's a lot easier to shake someone's hand
就是说跟别人握握手这个事儿简单的多。
than it is to be naked with them.
就是说你跟别人握手，就是赤身裸体跟那个人在一起，这是两回事儿，不太一样。
Difference between the 7th and the 8th house.
这就是七宫和八宫的不同。
Okay, think about it.
啊，你想一想，
Now, my granddaughter who has Libra rising
我的孙女儿她的上升是天秤座，
also has the moon in Aries in the 7th house.
那么她的月亮在白羊座七宫。
This girl has never met a stranger.
这个女孩她从来就没遇到过任何一个陌生人。
She is amazing. She will go up to anyone
她太了不起了，她会走到任何人的身边，
and say, "Hi, what's your name?"
她会走到身边说：“嗨，你叫什么？
My name is Liz.
我的名字叫 Liz。”
And then she's just in the moment with him right there. Aries moon in the 7th house.
月亮白羊座七宫，她就在那一刻就是在那跟那别人在一起。
That is not a moon in Aries in the 8th.
这可不是月亮在八宫的白羊座的感觉。
It has a totally different vibration to it.
月亮白羊座八宫是完全有不同的这个振频。
It's not as open.
这个八宫的人不会这么开放。
There's going to be a little bit more of a warrior look.
他们会更有一些那种战士的那种神态、眼神。
And they're going to ask you something to see if they can find out something about you.
他们会问你一些问题，看看他能不能发现你的一些东西。
Because it's about trust issues.
因为这是关于信任的问题的。
Why are you here?
你为什么来这儿呢？
See, now that's a direct Aries question, though, isn't it?
这确实也是一个非常直截了当的白羊座的问题。
What are you doing in this room?
你在这个房间里干什么呢？
Are you here for some reason?
你来这儿是有什么原因吗？
This is Aries in the 8th.
这是八宫的白羊座。
That's not Aries in 7th. Hi, how are you doing?
这不是七宫的白羊
What
座。
is your name?
你的名字是什么？你干嘛呢？
My name is Dawei.
我的名字就叫大卫。
Okay, all right. See, it's are you supposed to be in this room?
你该在这个房间吗？
Oh, you have an appointment. Okay.
原来你这个有一个已经约好了哈。
Well, do they know this?
他们知道你有这个，你约好了吗？
This is much more of 8th house.
这是八宫的感觉。
See, and Aries in the 8th house may think, the moon in Aries in the 8th house may think, nobody can be trusted.
月亮在白羊座八宫的人可能会想，哎呀，谁也没法信任。
Till you just find out what's going on with them.
我们来看看到底他们是怎么回事吧。
And then maybe you can find some trust.
除非我们看到到底是怎么回事，我们才可能相信他们。
A man who has the moon in Aries in the 8th house,
一个月八宫白羊的男性，
maybe he's the kind of guy that wants to arm wrestle with you.
这个男人他可能想跟你掰手腕。
He says, here, put your arm up there.
他说，嗨，把你的手腕放在这儿。
Let's go at it.
我们俩来玩一局。
Because he's going to learn about you while he's doing this.
因为他会去这样，当你们这样掰手腕的时候呢，他就可以去了解你一些。
Then he's going to learn about you.
他会去了解你一些。
Whether he can trust you, how strong you are, all these things.
他能不能信任你？你强壮，你有多强壮？
The 8th house is much more confrontational.
八宫它更带来这种对抗。
7th house is really kind of looking for cooperation and establishing a relationship.
七宫更多的是想要去合作，能够建立起来关系。
You know, moon in Aries will keep one eye open around the campfire at night.
那么月亮白羊座的人，他在篝火边，他会睁着一只眼，闭着一只眼。
In the 8th house.
如果在八宫的月亮白羊，会睁一只眼，闭一只眼来，非常的警觉。
Just in case I need to use this knife.
万一我需要拿出我的刀来呢？
All right. Now I'm being dramatic, but I'm trying to make some clear points here.
我可能举的例子有一些戏剧化，但是我希望大家能够很清晰的看到它们的不同。
Okay. Question here. And you have to come up here though. That's part of being in the audience. Yeah, that's how you pay your way here.
What's the difference of moon in second house somewhere?
Versus what? In Aries? Okay, let me answer. Let me answer.
Is that maybe asking?
Okay, you go first, and then we'll do that.
我的问题是这样的，我的南交跟我的太阳、月亮都在一个宫里面，是不是说我实现我的北交的生活人生目的就很困难了？
in the same house, that means it's difficult for her to fulfill her North Node objectives.
No, I mean, the thing you have to remember is that your chart is perfect for you.
你这个问题是你要明白，你的星图对你来说是完美的。
Everybody's chart is perfect for them.
每个人对他们来说，他们的星图都是完美的。
If you have the sun and moon close to your south node, or
如果你的太月都在你的南交点附近，
it means that this life is more about completing that experience.
那么它就意味着你这辈子的更多是要去完成你这个南交点的这种经历。
You haven't finished getting your PhD in that experience.
在这个经历里面，你还没有拿到你的博士学位呢。
And now you can.
现在你可以拿到博士学位了，这辈子。
And it can be very satisfying.
这也是非常非常令人满意的。
I actually talked about that on Stina.com today in my Q&A.
我今天实际上在新浪那个微博访谈中还谈到这一点。
Or wrote about it. The South Node, don't think that the North Node is the exclusive source of happiness.
不要想北交点是唯一的我们的幸福的来源。
The South Node can be about happiness too.
南交点也可以给我们带来幸福。
It's happiness that comes from that sense of satisfaction of completing something.
那就意味着我们终于完成了一件事情
Or
带来的幸福
or
感，
being really good at something.
或者是我们真的是这个非常擅长这一点，这个南交的这个部分。
So that's very important.
这很重要。
I have a funny thing to tell you about that.
我给大家讲一个好玩的事儿。
I have Saturn conjunct the South Node.
我的南交点合向了土星，
Now it's in Virgo,
它是在处女座，
in the 9th house.
在第9宫。
Maybe I'm an old astrologer
也许我是一个老占星师，
trying to finish it.
我这辈子还要去完成这个事儿。
Maybe I'll finally learn this subject.
没准最终我最终真的学会了这门手艺了。
I've been studying it for 44 years in this life,
我这辈子已经学了44年了，
and probably before this life.
可能我在前辈子还学过。
But I'll tell you something else that's even funnier about Saturn conjunct the South Node.
我给你讲一个更有趣的土星合向南交的事儿吧。
When I was a young boy growing up,
当我是就是我小时候小男孩那时候，
I lived a lot like an old retired man.
那时候我的生活看起来像一个退休的老头儿。
So much so that sometimes my friends would refer to me as the old man.
我真的很像那个退休老头儿。那我的时候，我的朋友们都叫我小老头儿。
I had a friend in school turn around to me one time in the 6th grade and say, "You remind me of my grandfather."
我6年级的时候，我有个朋友，他就转头跟我讲说，你让我想起了我的祖父。
Now this is Saturn.
这就是土星。
What did I like to do as a boy?
我小时候喜欢干什么呢？
As a retired old man,
那是作为一个退休的小老头儿，
I like to go fishing,
我喜欢去钓鱼。
spend time alone in woods,
我一个人待在树林里面，
drawing and painting.
然后开始画画。
Right? This sounds like retirement.
你感觉到好像退休了一样。
And I also tended to be more withdrawn.
而且那时候呢，我就好像更隐退的那种
I
状态
was。social, but not as social as many children, more time alone.
我也是去社交，但不是像小孩子们那么的社交，我更多的是一个人待着。
I like to take a book out into the woods and read.
我喜欢带着一本书到树林里面去读书。
This is like an old retired man.
这就像一个退休的老人一样。
I hadn't finished retiring.
我还没有结束我的这个退休生活。
I hadn't finished being an old man.
我还没有结束那个做一个老头儿。
So I started off really old.
所以说我一开始出生的时候就已经很老了，
And I've been getting younger ever since.
然后从那以后我就越活越年轻了。
Okay. That's also something around the South Node. That's to teach you about planets around the South Node.
这也是南交点周围的附近的那个行星的意思。
Okay. All right. Happiness can come from both nodes.
所以说幸福可以来源于2个交点。
I was a happy old man as a child.
我小时候是个还挺快乐的小老头，
I liked fishing
我喜欢钓鱼，
and reading books of the woods
也喜欢在树林里读书，
and drawing and painting.
然后画画。OK。
All right.
Then after moon in second house in Aries。
Oh yeah.
月亮在白羊座2宫。
Right.
刚才有个同学问。
This is someone who needs to see every day to get some gratification every day that tells them that helps them to feel reward, a sense of gratification or reward for what they do.
这个人呢，他每天都需要从他所做的事情上得到一些回报。
And this could manifest just all kinds of ways.
这可能会以各种方式表达出来。
In the positive sense, Moon in Aries, if you think about a really healthy Moon in Aries in the second house,
你如果想象这样一个健康的这样一个表达，月亮2宫白羊座。
this might be someone who is emotionally well suited for being what's called a day trader. You know what
这
a
是
day
一个
trader is?
就是说，就是每日的交易员的这样一个星图的盘，它很适合于这样做这样短期交易，
Because they have to be in the moment quickly
因为它必须非常快速的，
when it comes to investing and moving money around in stocks.
就是说它就投资需要非常迅捷，然后在股票之间来回的切换。
And it's a very upsetting kind of business.
而这个实际上这个生意呢，实际上还很 exciting。
Upsetting. Most people will tell you, I don't have the stomach for being a day trader.
就很多人说我根本没有这样的胃口胆量去做这样一个，就是说短期就炒股票的人。
Because you're trying to make money quickly.
因为这个人呢，他想要去迅速的赚钱。
I make a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow.
我今天赚一点，明天赚一点。
See, this is Aries in the second house.
这就是白羊座2宫。
And I know at the end of every day whether I've made any or not.
我们知道，我每天那个收盘的时候，我都知道我赚了钱还是没赚。
And it's based upon my own self-initiative.
而且这是基于我自主性，我的自主性。
And the moon rules the stomach.
而且月亮呢，又是它是跟我们的胃联系在一起。
Moon in Aries has the stomach for being a day trader in the second house.
所以说，月亮白羊座2宫的人呢，他就有这样一个胃，他能够去做这种日交易员。
Now, when we get into aspects in this course,
当我们去讲相位的时候，
you'll find out how this moon in Aries, depending on how the moon is aspected, might have stomach problems.
你们会发现呢，这个人他有没有这个胃的问题，是取决于他这个月亮有什么样的相位。
It might be popping antacid pills as a day trader.
可能是他他作为一个这样的短期交易员呢，他不得不吃一些胃药。
Because his food is coming back up all the time.
因为他的那个食物呢，就是在他的食道中反胃会反胃。
All right. Well, we're actually 12 minutes over tonight, but that always happens in this first webinar.
我们差不多完了哈。
Uh-huh.
今天就到这里了。
Okay. All right. So we probably need to go ahead and stop now.
嗯。
But thank all of you for participating tonight. I will take more of your questions next week, and I want you to also interact online. Put some of these questions online. Drive our support staff crazy here.
大家可以把问题都反映到那个我们线上论坛上面，这样的话，让我们的助教们会疯狂的。
Right. We want to know your questions.
我们希望知道大家的问题。
We may even have answers.
我们可能还真的会能给你们一些答案。
And if you lose sleep trying to figure things out, that's great.
如果是你们想问题想不着，想着睡不着觉的话，这也是好事儿。
All right. So I'll see you next week.
我们下周见。
再见，拜拜。